let's talk vaccine passports. Should they be scrapped? The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, is thinking about scrapping vaccine passports as, unsurprisingly, I don't know about you, but this came as a huge shock to me, the Omicron wave is actually a bit milder than some of the scientists thought it would be. Guess what? It's not as bad as they said it was going to be. In South Africa, it wasn't bad. 24% of people at that stage were vaccinated in South Africa. We have nearly 90% here in the UK. And unsurprisingly, Omicron wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad in South Africa, wasn't that bad here, and vaccine passports are perhaps not the best idea. But we'll find out what everybody thinks about that, because there is a review of Plan B measures. They're going to be reviewed on the 26th of January, and it's becoming likely that the only COVID rule that will continue beyond then is mask wearing indoors. What do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's good that we're moving back to getting some of our freedoms back? Or do you think that we should continue to take measures against COVID? And what's your attitude to authority, especially in the light of the Partygate revelations? Because I want to hear your views. 0344 499 1000, text 87222 with the word talk, or tweet me at talkRADIO. Right, let's talk to Alan Miller. He is co-founder of the Together Declaration, and Dr David Lloyd, who is a GP at the Ridgeway Surgery. Dr Lloyd, maybe I could start with you first. First of all, both gents, David and Alan, thank you very much indeed for talking to me on a Saturday morning. Very kind of you to give up your time. I wonder, Dr Lloyd, if you could tell me first of all why you think that vaccine passports are a good thing, why you think that they should be used, and why you think they should probably continue to be used, if that is in fact your view.
Well, none of these things are absolute, but speaking as someone who's working on the front line, we're still seeing an awful lot of COVID. Although the numbers are coming down, we're expecting a big concern about people who are vulnerable and elderly over the next week or two. So they're the ones that are going to really be most affected. It's not a difficult thing to carry around a passport. I was in Spain just before Christmas, and it really, the way they handle it was very, very, very sensible. A man standing outside a restaurant checking your phone. It really was. It wasn't a huge imposition on my life, and you really felt much, much safer. I really don't think that this is a big deal for the United Kingdom population. I think we should carry on with it, just as I think, so importantly, we should carry on with masks.
But how Sorry to interrupt you, David. Sorry to interrupt you. Could I just ask, how does a vaccine passport, which is a digital piece of information, how does that safeguard you from a health perspective? That's what I've never understood.
So you go into a busy, crowded bar, 20% of the population are unvaccinated. They're going to be spreading the virus about.
But people, I mean, you're the medical expert, not me, but surely people who are vaccinated can get COVID and can transmit COVID.
Absolutely. I've just finished my isolation.
Apologies. Go ahead.
It's all right. I just finished my isolation after my second attack. But I've been treble vaccinated. It was just a sore throat and a runny nose. But if you're not vaccinated, the risk of that COVID infection becoming serious is very big indeed.
Alan Miller, you are chomping at the bit, I would imagine, to rebut some of the points of Dr. David Lloyd here. Alan, let us know your thoughts on this.
Dr. Lloyd made 3 points. He said it's not a big thing to carry around a passport. It's very sensible, and you can make you much safer. Well, when Show Me Your Papers to participate in society is described as not a big thing, I think that's a stark reminder of how far we've come in the last 22 months, that the idea that we have to show our most private, intimate details to strangers to participate in life, that's the first thing. We should not have to do that ever. The second thing is, it's very sensible. Well, it's not sensible. Let's discuss the points he made. It could make you feel safe. It might make you feel safer. It won't make you safer, because as we've seen in France, where the only people who could go into nightclubs have to be vaccinated and have to have vaccine passports, transmissions are running rampant. We've seen in Gibraltar, where there's 100% of vaccinations, transmissions are rampant. We've seen in Wales and Scotland, where they have vaccine passports, transmissions are far higher than they are in England, where we have not had vaccine passports, except for more recently in nightclubs and those that are going after 1 a.m. The idea at this point, now we've seen the data and the evidence, we were always told to follow the science. It was always a bit of a silly silly term, the science, because it was policy decisions based on scientific inquiry, data research and evidence, but it was policy decisions. We've seen now that transmissions can occur whether you're vaccinated or not. And actually, many people who are not vaccinated, just to make this point clear, have very high immunity if they've had COVID, as we've seen from evidence in Israel and other studies. We absolutely need to get rid of Plan B and vaccine passports on the 26th of January. If people, the majority of people in Britain have had vaccinations, and that's fine, and it's there to protect them. The idea that we have show me your papers to participate is really wrong. They now know this. That's why we're handing in a petition of 200,000 people on Monday in Downing Street, and it's actually 350,000 because we're saying there should be no vaccine mandates either, as it happens. Talking about people on the front line.
Let me bring in Dr. David Lloyd again just to respond. You've made a number of points there. I want to make sure Dr. Lloyd has a chance to respond to those. Dr. Lloyd, what do you make of what you've heard there?
Well, it's the ranting of someone who feels that a vaccine certificate is the same as, you know, showing your entire life. I'm just arguing.
It's a lot of information, though, isn't it? It's your medical your medical information
of your vaccination. Is there anything else on your passport?
Alan?
Well, I do. Can I just take the point ranting up, please? So let's be respectful, because I think one of the problems in these conversations is this division, name calling, and finger pointing. I've made a number of points about.
Okay, all right. Let's. I agree with you, Alan, and I think that we just need to make sure we hear everybody's point. So I definitely want to hear David Lloyd's point. Why don't you respond to the points that Alan made in his discussion there?
I mean, this thin end of the wedge argument that seems to be going around is that a vaccine passport is the first step towards the government imposing controls so that we all have to show our papers for anything. I think is nonsense. We need to be on top of this infection. He says that most people are vaccinated, but 20 million people are not vaccinated, and we have got that rump of people who are resistant to vaccinations, who are not going to get vaccinated. So we have to have a society that is able to live knowing that we've got a group of people wandering around without a vaccination, and we need to keep them from spreading the disease. I really don't think this is a matter of freedom. This is a matter of getting on top of this terrible disease. And if everybody gets vaccinated, then we can talk about reducing the controls. But until the Omicron virus and its subsequent mutants are under control, we have got a problem with vaccination in this country. We've got a rump of people who are not vaccinated because they are believing the nonsense that's going on the internet about vaccinations. Once that's sorted, I'm very happy to talk about taking away passports, but they're a simple, easy thing to do. I've got my COVID passport here. It's on my phone. It takes 2 seconds to show it, and it doesn't show anything else about me. It just says that I've had 3 vaccines.
Okay, Alan, final word to you.
Fine. Well, there's a number of points. You didn't address many of them, but the idea that people wandering around are a danger, you've not addressed the issue of immunity once you've had COVID, which no one seems to be talking about. The idea that this is going to protect people is nonsense. Omicron is now described as a very minor symptoms. We've seen many reports saying,
come and work in my surgery, come and work in my COVID hub and see what mild means.
You've just said a number of things, so I want to address them. And I really think this is the point. If you look at New York, they now have vaccine passports for everyone. They have mandatory vaccinations for municipal workers and all employees. 5-year-olds have to put them to go into cafes. If you look at Italy and France, they have to have them in transport and elsewhere, because actually it makes no sense just to do them in a venue, if you really look at it logically, if you want to logically assess the notion, because then you're going on a train and a bus and places like that beforehand. The whole idea that we have show me your papers to participate, we never discuss this in advance. That's why it's great they're going to go on the 26th of January in England. They need to go in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland as well. We also need to get all restrictions gone and an end to mandates. The whole idea of a free society where people make decisions and engage and win hearts and minds, and we don't have impositions made on us by the state, is vital to us getting normality back in a safe and clear and sensible way for everyone.
Okay, I feel we could talk about this all day, but thank you very much indeed to Dr. David Lloyd, who's a GP at the Ridgeway Surgery, and to Alan Miller, who's the co-founder of the Together Declaration. Plenty of thanks to both gentlemen for their thoughts on that, and plenty of reaction already. Let me just read a couple of these. Morning, Peter. My question on vaccine passports, this is from Jane, is who in government decided this, and when was the plan first put on the table? Well, Jane, it was voted through democratically by the government, but of course they were propped up in the most recent vote by the Labour Party as well. There were 100 Conservative MPs who voted against the extension of vaccine passports a couple of weeks ago, and there'll be another vote on the 22nd, or at least, even if there isn't a vote, there'll definitely be a decision on the 26th, sorry, not the 22nd, the 26th of January in terms of whether they should continue or not. It looks as if they probably won't, but I wonder if that, and one thing we actually didn't get into there in the discussion is whether that'll be for political reasons rather than medical ones. But thank you so much for your point, Jane. I know you're a regular listener, and it's always great to hear from you. Claire in Rugby says, of course vaccine passports should be scrapped. When will people understand you can still catch and transmit it regardless, and it segregates society? Dr. David is talking rubbish. I work in the front line also. He is what is wrong with society. Thank you very much indeed for that. And indeed to Mark, who is in touch, who says, all of Plan B needs to go, as they said they would not last a minute longer than necessary, including masks, which in his view do not work. Never been any solid evidence of them that has been presented, just misery for non-health workers to wear them all day. Plenty more to come here on Talk Radio about that and many other issues. We're going to be talking about Novak Djokovic in just a moment. Do stay with us.